Welcome to the WordyGirl Entertainment Podcast. I am your writer-in-chief, Rosalind Jackson. I am a lover of words, and that love led me to a passion for writing. And what's the next best thing to writing? Talking about writing. So kick back and join me for mind-blowing chats about writing, covering everything from screenplays to novels to poetry, from nonfiction books to songwriting, and much more. Hey now, today's episode is about rewriting. There's a famous quote by Ernest Hemingway that says, "The only kind of writing is rewriting." Now, most writers seem to think once they type the end, it's time to send their script off to a producer, studio, a contest, or agent, or whoever it is they want to read it. But no, that's just the beginning. The first draft is about getting the idea out of your head and onto the page without stopping to doing any editing or anything like that. It's just for you to get the idea out of your head and onto the page as quickly as possible. Then, once you're done with that first draft, the rewriting process is all about fine-tuning and well, actually it's not about fine-tuning. It's about really sculpting and creating the story. That's where you have to make significant changes and enhancements to better the script. Most writers hate rewriting. I'm one of those rare writers who actually likes rewriting because it's my time to be super creative. I get to sculpt the story, the characters, the dialogue, the plot line, everything. I learned my rewriting technique from an online screenwriting class that I took. The class is called Screenwriting You. It's an excellent class, and it's taught by Hal Crosman. It's a incredible program. I would recommend anybody to take it. So the first thing I will discuss is the writing techniques that I use for rewriting my scripts. Taking from what I learned from Screenwriting You, he basically gives you a template to follow in the rewriting process. You start first with the story, and then you move on to the characters, then you go into dialogue, then scene work, description, and then wordsmithing. A lot of new writers think that rewriting is just correcting spelling errors and typos and changing a couple of words here and there, but actually the rewrite process is a very detailed thing. It's a very detailed process, and so you start with basically a pyramid, and you start from the bottom, which is the story. The first area in particular for working on the story is structure. I make sure I have a strong opening, something that grabs the viewer's attention and gives them an idea of what the movie is going to be about. Next, I make sure I have an attention-grabbing, inciting incident. Then I make sure I have a strong plot point one, and also this rewrite structure is for features. You can also apply some of it to TV writing, but as far as like the structure part, this is for a feature. So after I work on making my first plot point strong, the next area I work on is the midpoint. You can't have the story drag in the middle, so you have to make sure that the action is still elevated. Next after that, you work on the second plot point. And the next step is the crisis. Then you move on to the climax of the story, and then the resolution, where you wrap up the story. You don't leave any loose ends and make sure everything is resolved. The next section is the characters, where I work on the characters. I tighten the characters' goals and their obstacles. I also make sure that their actions and decisions are in line with their character traits. Also, I enhance their character traits, make sure that they're, if they are, let's say, the character is manipulative, I go through and make sure the character's actions reflect them being manipulative. I usually work with 4 character traits, and the last character trait is a flaw. Whatever flaw the character has, you have to make sure that comes through in order to make the character interesting. Then after that, I work on the dialogue. I cut down on the words, make them less wordy. I make sure it moves the dialogue. I make sure the dialogue moves the story forward. You don't want to have people just having idle chit chatter. Every word counts. You have to make sure every word has meaning to the story, to the characters, making sure that it reveals character. Here you want to also get rid of any on-the-nose dialogue and amp up your subtext. Next area I work on is scene work. This is where I tighten up the scenes by making sure they aren't running too long. There's a technique where you come in late and get out early. That means you cut down on any greetings. You don't want characters in the beginning of your scenes introducing themselves or saying hello or having a little idle chit chatter about the weather. You just want to get down to the brass tacks. And also I try to cut down on people entering and exiting the room if I can help it, because that takes up time, and a lot of times you don't need that. You can just that's worked out through the editing process in post most of the time. After that, I work on description. Here I trim down the description in my first draft. Usually I tend to be a little heavy-handed during the first draft with my description because, like I said, I'm just trying to get the idea out of my head and onto the page, and so I tend to write more. And so during the rewrite process, I go in and trim all that down and fit it and shrink it down and use more words that have impact. You don't want to have large blocks of text that crowds the page, and nobody wants to read a page that has a ton of writing on it. It looks too dense, and it's a turn off. I try to keep my description no more than 3 to 4 lines. And again, like I said, I try to beef up my action words for more impact for the reader. For example, instead of saying he ran out the door, I'll say something like he raced out the door. The word raced packs more punch. It gives more of a visual impact than ran out the door, because it implies that he's really running fast. Also, you want to make sure you aren't directing your actors in the description. That's the director's job. So you want to stay away from that as much as possible. You can give them things to do, in business and all that kind of thing, but not too much. You don't want to take over the director's job and guide the actor's every move. The final stage that I work on is the wordsmithing. Now, that's what most new writers think is rewriting, where you check for typos and things like that. No. So, but this is where you do that sort of thing at the end. It's like the very last thing that you do, just to polish the script and make it shine. Right now, I'm rewriting a script that I wrote several years ago. It takes place in the music industry, but being that I wrote it several years ago, the music industry no longer operates the way it did when I wrote the script. So what I have to do in this rewrite is change a lot of things to update it to how the music industry runs today. So my story is basically, it's The Devil Wears Prada meets Empire. So that's all of the plot line I'm going to give you. Well, that's not a plot line, but that's the pitch. I don't want to get too in detail about my storyline because I'm still working on it. One of the things I need to do is change how one of the characters presents his music to the record company. In the old version, I have him submitting a demo on a CD. Nobody does that anymore. People use YouTube and SoundCloud to showcase their music. So basically all you would have to do is send somebody a link to listen to your music. And they can click that link and go onto YouTube and watch people. A lot of people do cover songs on YouTube, and that's how they display their talents and things like that. Or they may do an original song. And that's how a lot of people have gotten discovered on YouTube. That's how, of course, Justin Bieber got discovered by his YouTube videos. And then mostly what people are doing today is putting their stuff on SoundCloud. And you create an account on SoundCloud, and you put your music on there, and it's basically like Facebook, a Facebook page, but it's a page dedicated to your music. You have followers, people can follow you. You can get viewers or listeners and things like that. So it's kind of like a Facebook page. The other thing I need to update is to include social media. How social media is used today in regards to music. I also want to update it to include how singers and music artists get endorsements with other companies. You may, like, say, for instance, Rihanna is a singer, but she has a deal with a beauty company, and she just came out with a line of cosmetics. So I want to incorporate that into the story to reflect how artists are multifaceted in business. It's not just about the music anymore. It's also about creating businesses and getting corporate partnerships and things like that. The other thing I want to update is the stakes for the lead character. Right now, the stakes are not high enough. My character is an intern from out of town. She's working at a record company, and she doesn't want to go back home to her hometown in the South and get a job with her family, working at the family business. Her mother and father are accountants, and she does not want to return to that life. So she wants to be an A&R rep and work at a record company. And the way I have it written now, that's really not. The stakes are not high enough. Right now, I'm elevating the stakes so that if she loses, it would be detrimental to her. So that's what I'm working on for that. So that's what my rewrite process is. I will let you guys know how I'm doing on this project as I'm writing it. Hopefully, my rewriting process can help you guys if you need it. So that's all for today, and I will keep you updated on my progress. All right. Bye now. Thanks for taking the time to tune in to the WordyGirl Entertainment Podcast. Don't forget to check out my blog at www.wordygirlent.com. That's WordyGirlent.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at WordyGirlEnt and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/WordyGirlEnt. And always remember, it all begins with a single word. So what are you waiting for? Go write.